And that is Lake Michigan. I'm here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is the second stop on Velshi Across America 2020. I'll travel to a different battleground state for each remaining Sunday leading up to the election. And I'm going to speak with small groups of voters in those states to learn their thoughts on this crucial 2020 race. Today, we are in the battleground state of Wisconsin. And while this state has politics on its mind, the city of Kenosha is still reeling from racial unrest due to the police shooting of Jacob Blake and the ensuing protests. To that end, I asked my panel of voters how they feel about race in America and how much they believe it affects their lives. Watch. Kathleen, let's talk about racism. You've talked about the protests that have gone on in this country in the last 6 months or so, and less than that, but we've had protests for a few months. And you are disappointed in the authorities' inability to keep communities safe. Have you at any point been able to think about the complaints that are behind some of those protests? Do you believe that there is a structural racism problem in this country?
I don't like the word systemic racism. I also don't like the words white guilt. I think, what does that mean exactly? We can't help who we're born. I believe we live in a country where anybody can succeed. We have people come from Nigeria that are doing better than Americans. We have people from Asia coming here doing better than Americans. We have people from India coming here. So I think that's kind of a crock, that they assume that they're in a victim role. I don't believe in victimization. I believe that there's more victory and lifting people up and making them feel equal, because in the eyes of God, we are all equal, correct? Yes, we're not equally able to do the same things. Physically, I can't play basketball, but we are equal when it comes to many of the rights we already have. We have many different organizations for Hispanics and for blacks that whites don't have. Right now, it seems like white people, especially white men, are not doing as well in this country than they used to because of the vitriol that goes on. Again, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, and I'm sure in some ways, but it's not just against one group of people.
Systemic racism, I don't think there's systemic racism. I do think there's racism for sure. To speak on my own experiences in life, I'm half Mexican. I did half of my childhood out in Kenosha County, predominantly white, the other half here. When I was out in Kenosha County, I was called all sorts of racial slurs, and then when I came out to Kenosha, didn't live in a great neighborhood over behind Kmart, and my closest friends were black guys, and when their cousins would come over to hang out, I was the one they'd say, send that white kid inside, I don't want him hanging out with us, So racism is on both sides. I think the more that we keep making it, bringing it to the spotlight and making it an issue, that's when all the tensions come back up. That's when the violence starts happening. Are there racist cops? Yes, I 100% agree with that. Did that cop in Kenosha here act appropriately? I'm not a police officer. I think 7 shots is excessive. I don't know.
I was raised, everybody's equal. That's how I was raised. That's all I can speak from, is everybody has an equal shot. I mean, are some people jeopardized by the color of their skin? Probably. But I know people who are on welfare who are white. I mean, all different colors. I don't think that discriminates. I really can't speak as far as I was never discriminated against. So I don't know how that feels, you know what I mean? But
it's hard, right? I guess that's part of the problem.
It's hard because I can't
have the lived experience. How do you?
I don't.
How do you know?
I don't. But all I can do is say I was raised that everybody's equal. That's how my parents raised me.
There's an issue with inequality in terms of income and those kinds of things that we need to attend to. But fundamentally, there is also this issue of race. I've been stopped by the police twice in my life. I was 16 and speeding, and I got a ticket. And then again, I was in my late 30s, and I was pulled over by a police officer I knew. He gave me a warning. Neither of them would have reached their hand to their revolver, their service weapon. I was never at risk. But when we see so many other things and so many other instances of people now filming it, it says that there are basic injustices that we have to attend to as a country if we want to be who we say we are in our Constitution.
Nicole, you walk in interesting shoes here because you have mixed race children. So
Yeah.
you've actually got this thing where some people say, I didn't live the experience. You've been able to watch and see and live it. So tell me what your thoughts are about racism in society right now.
That's exactly what I was thinking when she was talking, because until I moved to Western Kenosha County, I had never experienced racism with my children either, because they were in a diverse environment until then. So when it happened, I was shocked, appalled. I couldn't believe it. I thought that this was something that was put to bed in the 60s or the 70s, and the pain and the hurt from seeing my children come home from school and throw up and cry themselves to sleep because of, the derogatory names that they were called. Until you actually experience it, you can't fathom it. So when they say it doesn't exist, or I don't think it probably really doesn't exist in their world, or they really can't, but they should take the time to listen to other people who have and consider it. And I think when Trump and other elected officials say it doesn't exist, they're just dismissing it. It does exist. Just because you haven't experienced it, and if you haven't experienced it, you should take the time to find someone who has, so that you can help them. Because, we're all Kenosha County citizens. We're all, and it really disturbs me that they don't take that time, that they just say it doesn't affect me, so it doesn't exist.
Thank you. What can you say to people who come in good faith to have a conversation, who say, I haven't seen this, I haven't felt it? What's in your heart that you want to say to people who don't have your lived experience and for whatever reason don't see it?
I first want to say, believe me when I tell you it exists. You can't know what somebody else has experienced or what they've lived through, and that's not just when it comes to race. As a woman, you can't know what a man has experienced, and as a man can't know what a woman experienced when it comes to misogyny. And so the first thing I say when someone comes to me is come with an open mind and take what I say at face value. Because the minute you decide that what I'm saying is not correct or not true or not honest, that closes the door for whoever is approaching me to truly understand. When it comes to racism, yes, we have the individual acts of racism, and I think when most people say they didn't experience it, that's what they're talking about. And of course, a white individual isn't going to experience individual acts of racism. But when we're talking about systemic racism, it does not matter what the intentions of the individual players are in that system. The system is set up to be racist. Just the way that the system of racism has progressed over the last 400 years, it's a well-oiled machine that runs no matter what its actors' intentions are within that machine. And so in order to change it, first people need to acknowledge that it's real and that it exists, and then people need to be intentional about trying to address it.
My deep gratitude to those Wisconsinites for participating. I'm looking forward to having candid discussions with more of you in the weeks to come before Election Day. Next week, Velshi Across America 2020 heads to Pueblo, Colorado. Still ahead, Vermont Senator Patrick